Welcome to our tutorial for BlueSky Playground Express. This video is designed to walk you through the Playground Express system found at firesmoke.ca/playground/express. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to quickly generate personalized emission scenarios using specified fire, weather, and dispersion inputs. Before we can begin, let's talk a bit about BlueSky Canada. BlueSky can be found at firesmoke.ca and has many different tools to aid first responders, governments, and researchers in understanding fire danger, behavior, and smoke emissions in their regions. This includes our smoke forecast, fire weather forecasts, playground, and downloadable data. This video will focus on one of our playground tools, Playground Express. This tool creates emission scenarios using a fixed emission rate without considering actual fuels in the region, allowing users to focus on smoke behavior rather than concentrations. As we move through the tutorial, links to referenced web pages will be included at the bottom of the screen for your ease of following along. To get started, let's navigate to Playground Express. You can find it on our main web page by selecting Playground under our Services tab, and then selecting Playground Express. You'll find it takes you to the first of 3 input pages to create an emission scenario. We'll walk you through these pages one by one. The emissions input page allows users to set fire information and timing of the fire. You can opt for the model to emulate a wildfire or a prescribed burn, which changes how emissions are modeled over time for the run. You can then select the fire size in hectares, the North American time zone that you would like the scenario to be created with, and the exact location of the fire. You can either set the latitude and longitude yourself, or simply click anywhere on the map within Canada and the United States. Timing can be inputted in a standard or advanced way. Standard timing allows you to select the number of days and the combustion phase. And opting to expand the timing tab allows you to see exactly how the modeled fire progresses over time. Note here once again the difference between a modeled prescribed burn and a modeled wildfire, as they will have different consumption rates throughout the day. Advanced timing also allows you to select the number of days in the combustion phase, but you can also then select to change the preset consumption curve by shifting it 1 hour earlier or later, or by expanding or compressing the curve. If you ever mess up or wish you modified the curve in a different way, no worries, as you can hit the Reset to Default button and it will return to its standard form. If you would like to modify this curve even more to your specifications, you can draw your own curve by clicking and holding your mouse on the plot. You don't have to worry about drawing too much or too little, as once again you can hit Reset to Default to return the plot to its standard form. Once you're happy with your settings, you can proceed by selecting Next. It will save your emissions inputs and take you to the Meteorology Inputs page. Here you can select real weather forecasts from the Weather Forecast Research Team's archives that will be used to create your emission scenario. Forecasts are distinguished by their initialization time and forecast resolution and domain. To see the domains, select the drop-down button to expand the input box. Please note that not all weather models are available for the same dates. This page also lets you pick the start date for your emission scenario, and the length of the run which sets the number of hours to run the dispersion for. If you notice that the start date you want is faded and cannot be clicked on, this date is not available and we recommend you try a different weather forecast model for that day. Once you are satisfied with your choices, select Next to move on to the Dispersion Inputs page. Here you will find options to set the plume rise and dispersion for your emission scenario. There are standard, advanced, and expert options for both. Standard plume rise will use a standard, unalterable plume, but advanced plume rise will allow you to adjust the height of the plume top as a percentage of the standard plume. While the standard plume top height is based on a calculation of heat release over time, you may want to adjust it to reflect different atmospheric conditions. For example, an unstable atmosphere could potentially increase your plume height, and vice versa. A stable atmosphere could potentially decrease your plume height. Expert plume rise allows you to make even more modifications that'll be fed directly into the underlying models, and can be modified to fit your specific needs. To learn more about the options on this tab, you can select the question mark button next to plume rise. Now onto dispersion. Standard dispersion gives you the dispersion options based on your desired speed and fidelity of emission scenario. The fastest model run will have the lowest fidelity, but be produced quicker, whereas the slowest model run will have the greatest fidelity due to a more involved process in the model. Advanced dispersion starts to lift the lid on what makes the emission scenario slower or faster or having greater fidelity. Here you can choose how much the meteorological domain is limited to the area around the fire, the number of particles tracked through the emission scenario, and the resolution of the sampling grid. Using a higher grid size, number of particles, and grid resolution will result in a slower, higher fidelity emission scenario. Expert dispersion splits these options even further, allowing a user to make more modifications that are fed to the underlying models. This includes setting from dry deposition, wet deposition, and the thickness of smoke layers. Once you are satisfied with all your inputs on this page, you can hit Next, which will take you to the last page where you will start to see the model create your emission scenario. Progress towards completion is recorded by a color bar, and the status and runtime are updated every 15 seconds. Note once again that the total runtime depends on how simple or complex your inputs were. Once the run has finished, the results will be displayed along with user set information describing the fire and the emission scenario, and the run ID and runtime. You can name the report, add a reporter, and description for your run at this point as well. Below the written information, you can see an interactive map with a time bar below it and a red marker indicating your selected fire location. This map allows you to view your emission scenario through time. To see how the modeled smoke progresses over the runtime, you can use the forward and backward buttons to move frame by frame. You could also slide the drag bar back and forth, or manually select the image you would like to see from the time display dropdown. You could also do it automatically by just pressing play and letting it move on its own. You can view the emission scenario in 3 ways: hourly PM2.5, daily average PM2.5, and daily maximum PM2.5. When viewing the hourly emissions, you're also able to change what time zone you are viewing the forecast in by selecting one from this drop-down menu. Other model output can be found at the top of the page. These 3 red buttons allow you to download files related to the run you just made. Results output will bring you to a directory structure containing all of the output files related to your emission scenario. KMZ allows you to download a smoke dispersion file that is compatible with Google Earth. PDF allows you to download a PDF report of this run that contains all the written information on this page as well as some of the images from the run. You'll notice that there's a link next to Run ID at the top right-hand side of the screen. This is the link for the run that you've just created, but keep in mind that it will not be saved online forever, and the best way to review this run on your own terms will be to download the results output files, KMZ, and PDF. However, as long as it is active, you can use the link to return to this exact dispersion results page. But now, if you're feeling like you want to make new emission scenarios, you don't have to fully start over the process by going back to firesmoke.ca. Simply hit Start New Run, and a new tab will open the first page of BlueSky Canada Playground Express where you can give it another shot. That concludes this tutorial. If you're confused with any of the steps along the way when creating inputs for your emission scenario, you can always hit the question mark buttons to see information provided by our partner Airfire and descriptions for their very own version of BlueSky Playground. Note that their version is slightly different and may not have all the same features that BlueSky Canada Playground Express has. If you still have questions, feel free to reach out using our contact page. Check out our other tutorial videos to learn more about BlueSky services or to take a deeper dive into our smoke and fire weather forecasts.